Hello and welcome to Glass Tire's 2023 fall preview. It is the week of August 31st, 2023, and we are going to be looking at shows to see this fall across Texas. I am Brandon Zech.
I'm Jessica Fuentes.
I'm William Sarradet.
And we've talked with a few folks who are organizing some of the shows. We're also going to be talking to you about a few other picks. It's going to be kind of a mashup video, but that's what makes it fun. It's varied. Just a reminder that whenever we do these previews, it's always kind of us looking at museums and larger nonprofits. A lot of times there are a ton of gallery shows that are going to be really great, but galleries don't release their calendars that far in advance. And we're also kind of looking for big, splashy landmark shows that are happening all across Texas. So just because something isn't on this list doesn't mean it's not going to be amazing. I'm sure you will see many of those picks coming down the pike in our top fives this fall, either around the time that they open or after they open. So with that, let's jump right into it. So one of our picks for the fall preview is here at Asia Society in Houston. It's Tsherin Sherpa, a show called Spirits. It's going to open in September. It'll be on view through the beginning of January, so you have all fall to see it. You'll also have the winter to see it if any family comes in and y'all want to come. So I'm here with the show's curator, Owen Duffy.
Yeah, Brandon, thank you so much. I really hope all of you have a chance to see this very special exhibition. Here at Asia Society Texas, we're really thrilled to present Tsherin Sherpa's exhibition Spirits. It's his traveling mid-career retrospective, originally organized by the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, which I'm really honored to be able to adapt here for Houston. It will survey his series, which actually imagines what would happen if Tibetan deities experience the trials and tribulations of the Tibetan diaspora spread across the world. So Tsherin Sherpa was actually trained as a traditional Tibetan Thangka painter. He apprenticed with his father at age 13. And then after studying Mandarin and computer science in China, he actually then traveled to California, where he found his own artistic voice, really introducing contemporary themes to a very traditional and highly respected art. So one of the things that's really exciting about this exhibition is that we'll also be giving particular emphasis on Tsherin Sherpa's collaborations with traditional artists in Nepal. So this means, in addition to, of course, his spirits paintings, we'll also have examples of his carpets and tapestries that are hand-woven in collaboration with traditional artists from Nepal. We'll have some of his amazing repoussé work, and then, of course, also we'll have examples, believe it or not, of his father's Thangka paintings. So this is going to be a really, really beautiful exhibition that hopefully will resonate with audiences, particularly in regards to themes related to migration, to the experience of loss, struggle, and of course, transformation.
I love shows like this where you're able to really just kind of get the full spread of someone's artistic career. You know, it's like a painting show is great, and no shade to a painting show, but at the same time to be able to have an artist who is able to adapt their work to all those different mediums, and especially working with other artisans and craftspeople, it's just something that lends itself, and it shows that the work is bigger than what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree, Brandon. I think that's a great point. One of the things that Tsherin Sherpa is really keen on doing is providing a platform and a voice for traditional artists from Nepal. And one of the things that is really amazing there is the way that the contemporary and traditional art scenes have such an interesting dialogue with one another, and the way that artists often come from the same family and end up, one person will end up as a traditional artist, another person might head into a more contemporary sphere, and there's also a lot of places where those intersect. And so I think this exhibition is going to be a really great introduction to that aspect of Nepal's art scene.
Great. Well, make sure to come and see it if you are in Houston.
Another pick that we have for this fall is Groundswell, Women in Land Art. This exhibition will be at the Nasher, and it's been curated by Dr. Lee Arnold, who has been known to curate other exhibitions around land art in the past. I'm very excited about this show. As y'all may know, like much of art history, when it comes to land art, the art historical narratives surrounding land art have mainly centered on men. And so it's exciting.
No.
Shocker. It's exciting to see a curator who is, very knowledgeable about this field in particular, and then diving into these maybe not as often recognized female artists who are working around the same time as male artists in this area.
I almost feel like the Nasher's been like teasing the precursor of this show for a little while. Like, of course, this show makes sense to happen at the Nasher, being a sculpture center. There's also been work by Ana Mendieta shown like in kind of one of the little lobby galleries, the place that for a long time was Theaster Gates's little cafe. The Nasher is the perfect place for this, and it makes a lot of sense that they would be doing the show to kind of reconsider what has been a machismo Southwestern mode of working.
Exactly. And another thing that is exciting about this is that the Nasher has commissioned a new site-specific piece by Mary Miss that is going on view in conjunction with the show.
It's nice to be able to have a real piece of land art in the show. Not that any of these works aren't going to be real pieces of land art, but it's so hard to kind of bring the public to land art oftentimes because it's remote or because they don't know how to engage with it. So having a show like this provide context for what land art is, and then also having a piece of land art in what I assume is going to be the sculpture, little garden park behind the museum is going to be a nice kind of tie together of everything.
I'm here with the Carl and Lily Forsheimer Curator of Early Books and Manuscripts at the Harry Ransom Center, Erin Pratt. And today we're here to discuss the current exhibition on view at the Harry Ransom Center, The Long Lives of Very Old Books. So this exhibition will explore the stories behind books published by Europeans between the mid-15th and late 17th centuries.
The basic premise of the show sort of operates on this sort of tongue-in-cheek paradox, which is that, printing as developed by Gutenberg and team in the mid-15th century, the promise of printing, right, is to be able to make lots of copies of the same thing that are essentially identical. But the basic premise of this show is that every individual copy of every printed book has a unique story to tell, that they have individual histories all the way from when people were setting type in the print shops, as these books have been, sold to their first customers, and then cycled through generations of collectors, libraries, and modern institutions like the Harry Ransom Center. So what folks can expect to see are, materials ranging from 3 copies of the Shakespeare First Folio, which celebrates its 400th anniversary this year. I couldn't not include the 3 of the 4 copies that are in the state of Texas. You'll see, the first book printed in the English language. You'll see first editions of Newton and Copernicus, but you'll also see a lot of very strange things, like a Bible that was forged to have provenance, placing it on the Mayflower when it came over in 1619, from, a 15th century book that a man used to record the fact that his wife survived childbirth. He was very happy about this fact, as you might imagine. From, for an audience for Glasstire, very, very interesting examples in the history of bookbinding, from, bindings from the 15th century all the way to 19th and 20th century collector's bindings and artisanal craft bindings with lots of gold, lots of leather inlay, that kind of thing. I hope that folks will come away with a sense, that it is actually worth paying attention to books as artifacts as opposed to purveyors or sort of vehicles for content. And I also hope that treating books as artifacts allows us to see things, see sources of evidence that allow us to enrich our histories in a way that simply attending to their content would not. One of the copies in the show was hand-colored in the late 15th century, possibly by a workshop associated with the book's printer. But then 200 years later, in the 1690s, this book had made its way to England, and a guy paid to have it elegantly repainted that year. And so the book has these beautiful woodcuts that have been colored in kind of 2 phases, one with the kind of washes that you would expect to be used in the 15th century, and then one with fairly opaque and highly kind of varied paints that have been added to it in the late 17th century that make this book very unique and kind of strange aesthetically, but also quite beautiful. And then there are, what might we say, much more humble types of illustrations. So there are at least a few books in the exhibition that feature readers' doodles, their own drawings in books. And so you'll see this 16th, 17th century looking man or 16th century man who's doffing his cap with a large beard. And then, just because I couldn't skip it, even though it's maybe not the most sort of visually attractive the illustration from the first edition of Copernicus's treatise on the cosmology that he develops that puts the sun at the center of the universe, or the sun at the center of the solar system, rather than Earth. And folks will be able to see that very famous illustration of that. So there's a decent amount of, I think, what I would think of as traditional visual art. But of course, there's also this kind of artifactual approach to looking at books, asks us to sort of see all books as a kind of sculpture or a kind of art form.
Erin Pratt, curator of early books and manuscripts at the Harry Ransom Center, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
One of our picks for the fall preview is the show Witness, Black Artists in Texas, Then and Now, which is going to be on view at the Grace Museum in Abilene. This show is running concurrently with a show of photographs by Early Hundle Jr., but we're picking this exhibition because it really is just a really interesting overview of Black artists who have been working in Texas. It's called Then and Now. It's some folks who have died, people like John Biggers, other people who are a little younger, like Riley Holloway, Delicia Martin, Cedric and Letitia Huckabee, people like Burt Long, Charles Kreiner. It's this really interesting list of artists that, you know, despite kind of the wealth of group exhibitions that we see across Texas, I've never seen this group of artists together, which to me is really interesting. And I'm wondering what these works, when seen together, are going to say about being a Black artist working in Texas.
Speaking with Claudia Presa. Claudia, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and the institution you're with?
Sure. I'm the assistant curator at the El Paso Museum of Art.
The Border Biennial that is opening at the El Paso Museum of Art in December. This is the first time that the exhibition is being hosted in a couple of years. And so we were excited to see it come back. And I know that it's still early days in curating the show. The deadline for submissions just ended earlier this month. But I wondered, Claudia, if there were things that you could tell us about what you're seeing in the show.
This is our first time coming back after taking a break due to pandemic issues. So we're all excited to be back. The curatorial team, Edgar Picasso and Jasmine Ontiveros and myself, are really excited to kind of start the Border Biennial back up again. And we can see from the applications that the artists are also excited to kind of return back to this theme of exploring border issues. We're still reviewing the applications. There was about 270 submissions. For the application submission, we did kind of leave it very broad on the theme of identity. We kind of wanted to see what artists thought border identity meant to them. So that has allowed for the submissions to be very eclectic. Every artist has their own definition of what identity means to them. So we're seeing still a lot of the border issues that are typical in the area, such as migration, politics, physical borders. But we're also seeing how theme of border, even kind of thinking in metaphorically and figuratively, has affected artists.
Sounds fantastic. I can't wait to see it.
And next on our list for the fall preview is Waterways at Ruby City. This exhibition will open in September. It'll be on view through June of next year. It's going to be a selection of artists from Ruby City's collection working on the theme of water. And this is part in commemoration of the opening of a new phase of the city's San Pedro Creek Culture Park, which is where Ruby City's campus sits. This also commemorates the completion of the Ruby City campus in general. And if you've been before, you know they have a couple different places to exhibit work, and this will be a landmark exhibition in their calendar programming.
I remember when this building first opened, kind of the ongoing construction that interrupted the beautiful facade and the beautiful campus that this building sat on. So I haven't been back since the phase has been completed, or even since it's been nearing completion. I haven't kind of seen that full campus realization yet. So I'm really excited about that. It's also, you know, this collection isn't small. So whenever they're given a chance to theme it around something, it always means that there's going to be some works that very pointedly address the topic. There's always going to be some works that are a little more tangential and, you know, creatively curated in, but it's going to be a really interesting show. And it's going to be nice to see a few new pieces or a few new rotations in this space too.
All right. And so along with the other picks that we have for the fall, we decided to add in an extra bonus pick. And this is Afro-Atlantic Histories coming to the Dallas Museum of Art. So this exhibition is one that some of y'all may be familiar with because it was at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston previously. And before that, it was in Washington, D.C. at the National Gallery of Art as well.
So one of the reasons we're putting this in as a bonus pick for this fall is that we did include it in, I believe it was the fall 2021 preview, but I saw it when it was at the MFAH, but a ton of people weren't traveling then. It was the middle of COVID and it was hard to see. And I'm sure there are a ton of people from Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, elsewhere across Texas that just either didn't fully realize the show was happening or that just weren't simply able to come see it. So we definitely want to include the fact that it is coming again. This show, if you haven't heard about it, there's no way we're going to be able to accurately describe it to you in this video. So just do a bit of research on it. There's been a ton of reviews. The catalog is a beautiful document. This has been a really important show that's been traveling around, and we're really lucky to be able to have it come back to Texas for a second go.
It's a really powerful show. I saw this in Washington, D.C., and along with just being enamored with the art, it was exciting to be able to see works from the DMA's collection, from the MFAH's collection, in conversation with works from all over the world.
I agree with that. The DMA has a pretty broad permanent collection, and I think that some sections of that permanent collection will be recontextualized by what viewers will be able to see at this show.
And with that, those are our 6+1 picks for the 2023 fall preview. Like we said, there is a ton of stuff about to open after Labor Day weekend. It is going to be crazy town all across Texas with openings. Go check out our event listings. Make sure and check out future top fives for this coming fall because there is so much coming down the pike. And until then, thanks for watching and go see some art.